Well, my guest this evening is none other than Mr. David Boyer. First time in history I've done that, I'll tell you. Okay. David, please tell us a little bit about where you grew up and a bit about your family.
Well, I don't think it's a secret that I'm originally from Ohio. That's right, Bucks, yes. I grew up in a small town at the time outside of Columbus. It was a little farming town that after the war, when they started doing all the tract housing and stuff, and my folks moved out there. Literally, there was just nothing there, just houses and dirt and stuff when we were kids. And it was a great little town. I came from a large family. There were 6 of us. I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. And it was a small house, so I shared 1 bedroom with all of my brothers. I actually didn't sleep in a bed of my own until I was in high school. I slept with somebody.
But as a student, you had keys to your high school. Why so?
Well, it was a small town. We did everything ourselves. I mean, I just grew up. It was like the band boosters would do fundraisers to get us equipment. We do the same thing for the sports teams. They decided one year that they wanted to have a scoreboard at the football stadium. So they had collected cans from people so they could put them together and put little sockets in them and screw bolts in them, and they could make the numbers and everything else appear on it. So it was all homemade. And so at school, my involvement in sports was taking care of the facilities. And in the springtime, when there was a track meet, I'd be out there with my little thing going around the track, putting the lines down and everything else, and setting up everything for the track meet. And of course, the principal would come over and say, "Hey, this is looking really good, David." And my math teacher would be pissed off because I wasn't in class. I had keys to the school because when it was football game night on a Friday night, I was the one that would actually go over and unlock the gates and turn on the lights and everything else. And then announce all the games.
Did that ever give you any temptations since you had access to the school itself?
Well, back then, decorating houses was a pastime. I mean, there was nothing in this town. We had, there was no movie theater, there was no hamburger joint, there was nothing, and so we kind of came up with things on our own to do, and of course, if somebody would piss you off, the next thing you know is you get some friends together in the middle of the night and go over and decorate. And rolls of toilet paper are okay, but I found out that in our school they used to use the little square tissues, and they were, folded over each other and stuff, and they came in these neat little packets, and you could actually peel them back. So just a little bit would hold it, and then you launch them up in the air, and they would break, and it would just be like snow coming down everywhere. So you could really cover a place.
Well, what significance did the TV program Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea have for you?
Well, that's the first time I got fascinated by men. I mean, we grew up watching Westerns. I mean, every day there were Westerns on TV back in the 50s and early 60s and stuff. And so you always wanted to be a cowboy and stuff like that. But when that one came along, there was just a particular actor that caught my eye, and I didn't understand anything about having any sexual attraction or anything like that. It was just like, I like this guy. I'd like to be his buddy or something.
Or something.
Or something, but I didn't know what that something was at the time. That was kind of the earliest thoughts in my head where I realized that, I found men attractive. I found them interesting. I didn't realize at the time that it was a sexual attraction or anything at all. I
looked on the internet, and that was the actor David Hedison.
Was that his name? Yeah.
Who played the captain. What was Pussy Lane?
Well, being a small town, there wasn't a lot of places to do anything. And for those of us who weren't dating girls, to pass time, we would harass those that were. And one of the parking spots out of town got the nickname Pussy Lane because the guys that had cars and went out on dates took their girlfriends down this road, which was a dead-end road, to make out with them and everything else. And of course, our thing was to come through the cornfields on the other side and catch them in the act. We called it bushwhacking. Well, we came out of the bushes and stuff. And, there's nothing more embarrassing to get caught with your pants down, you know. Too bad we didn't have cell phones back then. We could have gotten some great pictures.
But as a student, you actually considered a very unique profession. What was that? What did you want to do?
Well, after high school, I went to school at Ohio State. You know, back then it was like, you must go to college, you must go to college. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I want to do. Everybody I grew up around there, it was a blue-collar neighborhood and stuff, but folks wanted us all to go to college. So I went to college, went to Ohio State. Actually, I have a great program there. It was, they call it GBC, or General Baccalaureate Curriculum. It's like we came up with a curriculum when you don't have to study anything, but you just take classes or whatever. So I did that for a while. But I always enjoyed meeting people, getting to know people from different places and stuff like that. I did that a lot in high school. We had foreign exchange students in our school. I did have cousins that lived in Columbus, so I would go into Columbus and I'd get to meet some other kind of peoples and stuff and all that. So going to college in Ohio State, I became a peer counselor for international students. And basically, they would have local students go to the airport and pick up somebody that just flew in from wherever and get them to campus, get them through the rigmarole of signing up, getting them their dorm space or their housing arranged or whatever. And you'd go to meet somebody at the airport and I didn't know what language they were speaking, they didn't know English. That always made it always kind of fun and stuff. But I got to know a lot of people from around the world. And so I decided I want to get into the foreign service. And this was in 1972, a long time ago. And so I called up the State Department. I'm talking to them, I'm like, what is it you guys want? Because, at the time, people were learning Russian, it was all, Soviet, US crap was going on, and this, that, they're like, what, and a lot of kids had learned English and or Spanish or other languages and stuff. Like, well, what is it what are you looking for talent-wise? And they're like, the Middle East, we haven't a clue. We still don't. So in my sophomore year, I started a dual program in international studies and Arabic. I was the very first class of students, there were 3 of us, that took an intensive Arabic program for one summer and covered a whole year's program in one summer of studies. Basically, it was all day.
Do you still remember it well?
It's nuts. I lived with a couple of Lebanese guys for a while. When they left the school, my next roommate was a Jordanian. And in the house, we kept it as much Arabic as I could comprehend. And sometimes we came up with some things when I didn't comprehend the words. Shaky Mufla was one of them. See, you all know that one now, don't you? And stuff. And, I was reading it, writing it, speaking it, up until 1975, when I was outed. And 2 months, my last year of school, when I should have been finishing up and stuff, they were like, we don't want you. You know, and in 1975, there was nobody around telling you anything about what your options are when you were gay and you wanted to do something. I mean, at that time, people were still, at least in Columbus, Ohio, were still being arrested. You know, your name's in the paper, where you lived, where you worked. You'd get arrested. You'd lose your job. They'd throw you out of your house or anything else like that. My advisor at the university was an Egyptian Muslim. It's not somebody I thought I could really talk to about this whole thing and stuff. I don't know, so I just left. Like, okay, I have to figure out something else. And so, because there was hostility with my family at that time too. They found out, you know, they wanted me to see a doctor, get made well. I'm like, gee, I'm not ill, there's nothing wrong with me. And then I was like, well, okay, then go ahead and have yourself changed into a woman, you know, and I'm like, you know, that's not what this is about at all, you know, and so there was just all this crap that was happening, so that's when I left Ohio.
What did you do with that time when you left?
Well, I tried to figure out who I am, what I could be, where I should be. I tried talking to some people that I thought I could talk to. I mean, I knew a lot of kids up at Kent State. Some of the youth activities I was in, I got to know kids in other towns. Some of the adults that were with these groups, who I thought were pretty cool and understanding, you could talk to. And, you know, when I mentioned the gay word, there was a wall. So I left. I bumped around from DC to ended up in all places Albuquerque in the winter of 1976. And spent about 3 months on the streets there. I couldn't find work. The university there wanted to hire me, but I couldn't because I wasn't a resident of the state. Then luckily, I did manage to have two friends that after I got very ill down there on the streets and stuff, they brought me back up here to Illinois and helped me get on my feet.
But you once eluded a sheriff. How did you do that?
Well, growing up outside of Columbus and having all my family around there and stuff, and going to school at Ohio State was a big campus, you know, several thousand students. There was a gay organization on the campus. In the student union, of course, we had our offices with different community student groups and stuff. And they, you know, sometimes you had to double up 2 or 3 groups in one office because there was more groups in more office space and stuff. Well, there was the gay group there that nobody wanted to share an office with. It wasn't just because they were gay, but they were kind of in-your-face gay. I mean, they had a poster on the door, and it was all phallic images. I mean, you couldn't, they're dicks, okay. But the thing is that, how many dicks do you see in this picture? You must be gay. I mean, I'm not an idiot. I can see their dicks. It doesn't mean I'm gay. I mean, I might be gay. I am gay. You know, I figured that out. But they were, you know, I mean, when I was going to school at Ohio State, I didn't even think that there was a gay bar in Columbus. It wasn't until I was living with my Jordanian roommate, you know, my junior year, so that would have been 74. So, his girlfriend was going on about how she'd like to go to the Kismet to dance. You know, it was a gay bar, and she could go there and have a good time dancing, and none of the guys would hit on her. And I'm thinking, like, there's a gay bar in Columbus, Ohio? Really? Because it's, you know, it just blew my mind. So You know, the first time I went there, and I'm looking around, and it was just like with the gay group, like a lot of people were marrieds. And I'm kind of like thinking like, gee, maybe this is not what I'm thinking of. Because I just couldn't relate to the crowd at all. But as far as your crowd. So anyway, I did happen to meet this guy. The first time in the bar. Beginner's luck, I don't know.
Fresh meat.
Fresh meat, I guess that's what I was. But I met this guy, and it was like we wanted to get it on. And he's like, well, can we go to your place? I'm like, gee, no, I'm a straight guy, and his girlfriend that lives in my place. I don't know. And I found out later we couldn't go to his place because he had a wife and kids there. So I know Columbus, hometown, is about 15 miles away. Well, I know this place. I mean, I was horny. It was summertime. So, and at the time I had an old Ford Custom convertible. It had no floor in the back. I mean, it was an old rust bucket, and I was a student, I was just getting by. So we got some beers, and we drive out to Pussy Lane. Now, I know what kids are doing out there, so I'm not stupid. I backed into this lane so that I could look, keep an eye down the road if anything is coming. So we get in the back seat of the car, we get our clothes off, we get it on, and have a great time. When we're done, we're sitting there having another beer, just kind of relaxing, and I look over the dashboard and I go, oh, fuck. I go, come on. I jumped over the seat and started up the car, and I go flying, and as I go flying up the road, the lights come on, and it's the county sheriff. And I'm thinking like, great, the first time I go out to have a sexual encounter with another man, I'm gonna get busted and be in the papers, and all my family's around here and everything else. The practice of toilet papering houses came in very handy then. Because I knew the roads out there and the farms and everything else, because I had friends that grew up, that lived out there, I was out there. So, I've got them chasing me around, and I'm trying to get the top up on the car, I'm trying to get clothes on me, and everything else, and one of our great tricks is that you quick pull in around somebody's barn and just kill the motor, douse the lights, and they just keep going right on by. And then you try to get out of there before anybody comes out of the farmhouse. But I'll tell you, I got back to the bar with that guy, and that was the most Jack Daniels I've ever drank in my life. You had all these different bars and stuff, and at the time, most of the bars were controlled by the mob. And it was the only way to keep the police from not raiding your bar was to be paying them off. And if you tried to open up a bar on your own, you didn't have a chance because they would pay the police to raid your bar and leave theirs alone or something like that. So it was a pretty interesting area. I have to remember back then in Chicago, at 5:15, the Loop was deserted. I mean, Marshall Fields and all the stores actually closed before 5 or right after 5. But people went downtown and worked, and it was busy during the day. At 5:15, everybody was on their train and on their way home. Across the River North area was just nothing.
Wow.
There was just old empty warehouses from the Merchandise Mart on up to Chicago Avenue. There was just nothing there. People didn't live in that area. So all kinds of things were down there, besides the gay bars. Around the club on Hubbard Street, right? There was, the Flight on the corner. There was my brother's place, which was a little restaurant thingy, bar thing, and then down the street from it, there were some other businesses.
Such as
if you wanted pussy. and you wanted to go and pay for it, you could. So anyway, I had a friend that, or not a friend, but, well, yeah, he was a friend. But I met this guy, humpy, hairy, furry, little fucker, and we went, and you know, I don't know if I met him at Sundays or the Eagle or Gold Coast or whatever down there. But it's kind of like, well, gee, you want to fuck? And I'm like, yeah. It's like, well, you know, I'm up in Edgewater. He's like, well, wait a minute, I got a place. So we go over here off the Hubbard Street to this building. He's got keys, we go in. We have a great time. I'm laying around. I'm looking at this place, you know, like at the draperies and the wallpaper and the decor in the room. And I'm like, well, what is this place? And it was a warehouse. And he cleaned it after hours. So that's why he had keys to it. And it was perfect. So, you know, it's like you go down to the bar down there and you could drink and carry on. Then right around the corner you could fuck them like crazy, throw them out, and go back and get another or whatever. You know? So yes, I have had sex in a whorehouse, but not with a woman.
How were you introduced to the leather scene?
Well, going down to the bars in that area to drink. First of all, you take the red line down to, well, it wasn't the red line then either, it was just Howard Street trains. But you take the train down to Ohio. And it was a gay train. I mean, you know, half the time you could meet something on the train before you even got down there. You just get off, get on the platform, go back up to your apartment and carry on. But, you know, you just see all these people going down there. And Chuck, who owns the bar here, you know, at the time I met him, he was a bartender at Sundays. And, you know, you had the Gold Coast, and you had the Readout, and you had Saturdays, you had Stage 618, the New Flight, all that stuff down there and stuff. So one of the bars, though, was the Gold Coast, and I kept seeing these guys going in and out of the place. And like I said earlier, you know, the whole idea of sister, married, girlfriend just didn't appeal to me. You know, that's a whole part of our community I just don't quite get. You know, I'm attracted to men. And so I saw men at this bar. And the leather was a nice aspect to it. I didn't quite know what the scene was all about, but it was a nice look. As I saw, I just would go there. And got to meet some guys who actually showed me the ropes, so to speak. I showed them some ropes too. And that's how I got into it all. It was real exciting then.
Why so?
Because you were really on the edge. I mean, to be gay in the 70s was, you were still at a risk of losing your job, your home. I mean, your landlords could throw you out of your apartment if they found out you were gay. They didn't, you know, we don't want no faggots here. Same could happen at your work or whatever. So a lot of people were very cautious about who they were and how they expressed themselves and stuff. I was fortunate in that I found gay guys that owned apartments, so I didn't care. I worked for places that, well, not even gay to start with, but well, not just nightclubs, but I mean the bar, restaurant, the hospitality industry had always been more accommodating to gay people to begin with. I mean, I worked in restaurants and stuff, putting myself through school, so it's one of the skills that I had. And when I came to Chicago, it was actually I was asked to come up here and do food service management at Northwestern University, which is what brought me to Chicago. I probably would never have come if I wouldn't have been offered the job. But I found that I could easily find work in this field of business fairly easy. And that's why I stayed in it ever since.
We were just talking about the 1970s leather scene. In
Oh,
Chicago.
so yeah, when it came to that, and I was talking about how people were closeted. I wasn't worried about if somebody found out I was gay or not or something, but most people were. And if you were into leather, you had to hide that even more, because it was one thing that, if you're homosexual, you're ill. But man, if you were into the kinky stuff, if you were into S&M, if you were into leather or something, you needed help. And so getting into that scene, it was one thing to admit that you were gay, another thing to say you were kinky. And within the community, the leather crowd was kind of shunned. When I started working at Touché, we were on Lincoln Avenue. By then, bars started popping up on Halsted Street in the late 70s, mid-70s or so. Well, Touché's over on Lincoln at Diversity, and people wouldn't go over there because it wasn't safe. It was dangerous. And it was great, because they left us alone, and we could just do whatever the fuck we wanted to. And we did. So there was that kind of being, if you wore a leather jacket, everybody was wearing leather now, but if you went out wearing leather, people, if you went to another gay bar, they would kind of like give you space. They would leave you alone, and it was great. Part of the thing of all that too is that in the 70s, after Stonewall, it took a while for Stonewall's effect to hit across the country. Okay, New York, they had this big thing at Stonewall and stuff, but it wasn't right away that everybody in this country started throwing off their shackles or whatever, coming out and saying, I'm a queer, fuck you if you don't like it. But when I got to Chicago, and after what I had gone through with my family and making all those changes, it was very liberating. And people were very liberated. People were very sexual. They played like crazy. Well, I'm going to the Dominick's to get some bread. I'll come back 2 hours later. I'd had 2 tricks and I never got the fucking bread, It was wild. I mean, you just walk down the street and you'd see some guy and you kind of, oh, yeah, and you're in the alley doing each other, and then you go back out on the street and go on about your business or something. It was just, I think for all of us at the time who had experienced the repression of that time. I mean, kids today have not been held to feel the shame and hide their who they are, what they feel, that way we went through. And so, we just blew the doors off. And it was just up for grabs. When it came to sex, it was like with whoever you can get your hands on and whatever your imagination came up to. So, as far as the leather crowd, it was great because I got to experience a whole bunch of stuff, meet a whole lot of different people, and learn a lot of different crazy things. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I'm still doing a lot of them too.
How did you come to work at the original Touché?
Well, like I said, met Chuck back in the days when he was a bartender at Sundays. Touché had actually been opened, I don't remember when it opened, but a buddy of ours, Wally, owned the bar before Chuck had bought it from him. And I'd gone over and met, to the bar a few times and stuff like that. So when Chuck took over the bar, it was like, well, I'm going to come out and drink at your bar or something like that, because I knew, all this good stuff. And I went in there one night, and the bar was not very big. It was just a storefront building. It had a rectangular bar. The point was at the front door, and it came along straight along one wall. It was an island bar, and then there was a little angle across, and then there was diagonal sides of the bar where most people would come in and stuff. And then this back edge of the bar we had a cooler that held 3 kegs of beer, and the tap handles, and then they would keep all the glasses for the draft beer on top of this cooler. So if you're anywhere in the room, if you look back through the bar, you can see this cooler, the glasses, and then the crowd behind it and stuff. Brian Leland. Oh, he's his name, he stopped telling that. Brian is well, at the time, I'm sure he still is a hot man, but at the time he was this hot little furball bear that, we didn't know the term bear then. But he was very handsome, nicely built, hair from head to toe and stuff like that, who loved to show off as much fur as he could at the bar. To show it all off if he could get away with it. And so, this one particular night I'm in there, and we're all pretty much just like crazy and carrying on and stuff like that. And he had asked the bartender, Michael, if he would remove the glasses from the top of this draft cooler. He would like to lay there naked for us all. So Michael, who has been enjoying the party like all the rest of us, just removed all the glasses off. He just swept them all off the top of this thing right on over to the floor. So I was like, okay, Michael, come out from behind the bar. I'll watch the bar for a while because you're a little full here. Well, Chuck walks in. What are you tending bar for? I go, oh, dear, your bartender's a mess. That wasn't exactly when I started, but that pretty much put me in the group to start slinging drinks at Touché.
Well, in the bars at that time, you got away with quite a lot.
It was wild. It was definitely nothing I would tolerate now. It was the 70s. The drugs were very good.
Indoor boys.
And everybody was doing it. I mean, we'd go out to party or something like that. I mean, you wouldn't go to an amusement park without acid. You wouldn't do this without it. You were just doing all kinds of. It wasn't designer drugs. I mean, we didn't have cocaine or basically it was
Quaaludes.
Quaaludes. Quaaludes were the big thing. Speed to keep going, and Quaaludes to take off the edge. And MDA. MDA was the one thing. It's like I just couldn't keep my hands off people on that stuff. All you want to do is touch everything. So and sometimes people would do things to you while you're working. It wasn't like they'd slip something in your drink or something. I mean, I'd just be there tending bars, and we would come along. Oh, what'd you do? Oh, I just gave you some microdot. Great. And now I got a 10 bar on it. But we drank and carried on. But Touché was really unique because it was really up for grabs. I mean, when I first came here to Chicago, we had those really horrendous snowstorms. We got Jane elected, because of the snow and stuff. It didn't matter what was going on outside. People would trudge into that bar to carry on. And people didn't come there necessarily just for that. I mean, people came in there because it was a small group. I mean, there's 50 guys in the room was filled. 100, you couldn't move in the place. But we all knew each other. We all played around with each other. And sometimes people didn't wait to go home to do that. It just started there. I mean, I would be tending bar, and particularly on the tight bar along the wall there, I'd have like 3 or 4 of them laid over the bar, and somebody's behind fucking them like crazy. And I'd come along like, have some poppers. And, they weren't drinking at the time, so I had to do something to pass the time. Sometimes on a busy night, it was just too crazy to get out from behind the bar to go to the John. So I had this one guy that used to lay on the floor underneath my station, so if I had to take a leak, he could take care of it for me and I could keep pouring drinks. It was just wild and crazy. If the bar was boring, need a little kick, I'd go into the back and take the filters out of the air conditioner and I'd soak them with poppers and then slide it back in and then watch the whole bar take a left turn.
Well, what did you do with izods or neckties?
Well, back then everybody wanted to wear the little polo shirts, whatever, with the little izod shirts with the alligators on them. So we started collecting them there.
The alligators.
The alligators. We didn't keep the shirts, we just collected the alligators. But we were a leather bar, and we were trying to get people to understand that, so when people came in from work and they had a tie on, they usually had, well, I guess you'd call it a bow tie by the time we got done with it, because we collected those too. So people got used to the idea, realized that, what we were all about. I had a friend that showed up one time in white pants. And so in the bar there was a fireplace. It was at the one corner of the bar, it was open on both sides. So then on the opposite side of the wall from the bar, there was a brick wall and there were chains up there. So I was like, what are they doing here in white pants, So I hung them up on the fireplace and everybody pissed off, so they weren't white when they left. There used to be, well, back then, every bar had a payphone now. The space behind the bar, going to the back, there was a couple of pinball machines. And usually after a good Friday or Saturday night or Sunday afternoon, you couldn't really play pinball on them because you couldn't see through the glass.
Right.
So you got all the Crisco off of it. But by this one pinball machine, there was our payphone. And this was way before SBC or all the other whatevers. It was still Illinois Bell, so I called Mom Bell to say, I need somebody to come out and repair our payphone. And they're like, well, what's wrong with it? I go, I don't know, it's not working. So this guy shows up and then wants to know how the phone got filled with Crisco. That was probably one of the fun things I had to explain.
How many times did that thing have to be replaced?
Only once. After that, I was not going to let them use that again. I told them to bring their own toys.
Tell us a bit about your tenure at Carol's Speakeasy.
Probably one of the best parties I ever got to work. I've enjoyed my time at Touché. A lot of Touché has been sexual in nature, or limited to, the leather scene and stuff. At Carol's, I got to do that, but I also got to do a lot more. I was there for 6.5 years of the 13 years of the bar. And during that time, we threw some incredible parties. We would do elaborate decor. We would change the house. And we did some big stuff IML weekend too. We did a speakeasy party and literally changed the intro. When you came in the door, you didn't come into Carol's, you came into an alley. The walls were brick. There were garbage cans and litter all around and stuff like that. And then at the end of the alley, there was this door with a slot on it. And then the doorman told him, you have to tell Mother Carol sent you. And people would go up and they'd knock on the door and they'd stand there and they'd look, the little slit would open, they'd look at it. And people were expecting to open the door. They would close it, and then they'd come back. They didn't open the door. did you tell them Mother Carol sent you? No. Well, they ain't gonna let you in then. And we were dead serious, but you walked into the place and it had been all revamped, and we had built the marquee for the Bijou Theater, or not the Bijou, but the Biograph Theater. We did all these things on Chicago and stuff. We did, I had two guys, because it was all gangster stuff and all that. So I'm the head honcho of this place or whatever. And we had the police there. I mean, guys has police and stuff, and I just pull out money and I'd be paying them off and everything else. But I had two guys that walked around with real Tommy guns. We got them from a prop house, and they said, "Don't let the police see these because they're illegal." I'm like, okay. And if they don't get ready, well, fine, they won't see them. But literally, I'd be in this bar, and if people would come up near me, these guys would step up with the guns in front of them. And oh, that's all right, he's okay, you let him come on through and stuff like that. But we would do all these elaborate parties and stuff like that. We would spend months working and stuff. We usually in June, we'd figure out what we're doing for Halloween.
Wow. And
start building everything to do it because it was a huge bar. It was 10,000 square feet. We did circus parties. We measured the inside of the building, barrel, roof, and all that kind of stuff, and bought huge rolls of fabric and cut it into panels. And we're in the back with great big, we used big old plastic garbage cans with dye, and we're dyeing them the different colors, and we sewed it all together and made a tent to fit inside the bar. So you actually entered a tent when you came to our circus party.
Wow.
We did a beach party. We covered the floor with sand.
The sand, yeah.
INL, we did the Thunderdome party with RJ and them. We had hogs in the bar. I mean, big fucking hogs. They brought them in the afternoon. They're trying to put them in this pen, and of course, they don't go to the pen. They're all over the fucking bar, and they're chasing. I'm like, they're not little pigs. Those are fucking hogs. They're gonna bite you good if you don't know how to handle them. And they're chasing these hogs from one end to the other. And it was wherever they got together, and this spot, and they all get excited and shit and piss all over here. Then they run over here and shit. So the bar really smelled right for the party that night. Then we landed the right to host the party after IML.
Oh.
And those are some of the greatest nights. It was not like the parties are today. I mean, we charge people $2 to walk in the door. We want everybody to come to the party. So we didn't have, but everybody was there. All the contestants would be there. INL would be up on the stage. It would just be a free-for-all. Half the contestants who had been in the contest all week and hadn't been able to were in the back room fucking whoever they get their hands on. It was great.
What happened when the bar was raided?
Which time?
Choose the one you like best.
Well, probably the big one that everybody knows about was the big drug raid. There's a task force, let's see if I get the name right, NEMEG, Northeast Metropolitan Enforcement Group. Basically a bunch of cops from the suburbs. And they're trying to track drugs from their area. How they came out of Carroll's, I don't know. I know there's drug dealing that was going on around there. You couldn't throw a big dance party without having somebody doing a little wheeling and dealing. And at that time, this Thursday nights, we did wrestling. Put mats out on the dance floor, and people could challenge each other to wrestling matches and stuff. So we're all kind of like just there watching some wrestling going on. It was not a big crowd or anything and stuff like that. While they came in the front door of the bar, they broke in the back door, didn't identify themselves. We thought we were being robbed.
Wow.
Because they threw everybody on, they made everybody get on the dance floor, face down on the floor. They didn't identify themselves. They were going through stuff. I thought we were being robbed. And finally somebody said something about, well, he's the manager over there. And so they came in and talked to me, and, you know, they were there to find drugs in the bar and stuff. I'm like, well, look all you want. And they photographed everybody in the room. They interrogated everybody else in the room. And they never said who they were, what this was all about. Anybody that argued with them, they'd hit them. So it was pretty ugly. We let them just do their things. The Chicago police showed up. They weren't doing anything to stop this from happening, so that was more, but that all ended up in court. Basically, they did find some drugs. Somebody could have dumped their little packet of whatever. It was great because when it all ended up in court, of course, these guys are the ones with the egg on their face because of the way they handled everything. But of course, the other thing was that, well, we didn't know it was a gay bar. Now, they've been casing the place for months. They've been there on a Friday or Saturday night to make a drug buy or something like that. And you didn't notice the 800, 1,000 guys dancing together on the dance floor, making out in the corners, the porn on the screen, and you're telling us that you didn't know it was a gay bar. So, we all got some money out of that. They threw out everything on the people that were involved in the whole charges and stuff. Ended up, everybody got a chunk of change out of that.
You met Jeffrey Dahmer. Tell us about that.
Well, I met him. I didn't know what kind of person he was, but I met him. Whatever happened to him probably wasn't nearly enough as what he deserved. You know, down in Carroll's, we got the Bijou Theater next door to the bar, and Bijou Videos down there, so I also work there now too. So we were tight with the guys that worked at the Bijou and stuff. You know, half my crew at Carroll's went for clothes. Well, yeah, like I never went there. Ended up at the Bijou after we got done because we were still horny. And sometimes when it was a really crazy night, I needed an extra pair of hands to help with something. One of them, would be there to do that. And one of these guys was Jeremy. And so Jeremy, I met him at the bar on Friday night, and I was actually sitting on his lap when he introduced me to him. And this is this guy from Milwaukee. No, I'm like, okay, cool, and stuff like that. Well, come Monday, no Jeremy's at work. Nobody could find him. And so we were the ones that actually were contacting the police and saying, something happens to our friend. He met this guy from Milwaukee, he's disappeared. And it was an anxious week or so. Until we finally found out what happened. When we found out what happened, it was really hard.
Changing gears a little bit. What makes someone another man?
Something in their head, more than anything else. At least for me, it was a learning process. You just didn't wake up one day and say, I'm a leather man or something, or, I attended so-and-so seminar, so you can call me sir now, or something like that.
Just add water.
Say that again.
First of all, you didn't go out and buy your own leather. You had to earn it. Trust me, I earned mine. When somebody, and that's the way it was. It was like you met this group of guys and there was something special about them, and you had to prove yourself to be worthy of their trust, their friendship, their camaraderie and their support for you. And once you got that, that never ended. And so you learned from them. You learned your place of where things were at, where you were at with them and stuff like that. You learned how to play, you learned how to give, and you're rewarded by being accepted as part of this group. Call me old-fashioned, I kind of think that's sorely lacking today. I mean, like I said, everybody's got leather and everybody's into leather and stuff like that. But I don't know if it's all in their head where it should be.
Well, I would agree. What does mentoring mean to you?
It's part of that process. Somebody mentored me. Somebody taught me ways to play and ways to relate to other people, particularly in this scene and in this community, that I don't think sometimes people think that they have to know that there is that process there. There are people in this room, there are people that come in here, people in the community that I know they have a sir or mistress or madam or whatever title before their name or something that they use. You see it referred to and stuff like that. My name's David. If there's somebody that I highly regard as to who they are, how they've carried themselves, what they've done, and how they've been to me personally, I will use that term, sir. And I don't expect that from a lot of other people here. You know, a lot of times that's part of the role playing when you're playing with somebody and it's part of your scene, sir, boy, master, slave, or whatever. That's one thing. And that's fine if you do that with them. You know, I'm not having sex with you, I'm not going to play that role so necessarily. I guess part of it is, like I said, just in your head. Nobody had to say anything to me, it's just I kind of see how other people responded, interacted with this other person, to realize what their role was, what their position was within this part of our community and stuff, and the respect that they had, or who, you know, you could tell who was the boy, or who was the one calling the shots here. The you know, not necessarily the leader of what's going on or something like that. And if you're observant, if you know that stuff, if you're really in tune to it, you'll pick up on that. You don't need somebody to tell you. You don't need somebody to give you a title to how to refer to them or think of them. There are people in our community that, you know, I'll do anything for. I had great respect for them, for what they've done, and I won't question it. Because of what I've seen them do, what I know that they're capable of doing and stuff. And there are others that think that I should do it for them just because of who they are. And I don't.
Well, in building on that just a little bit, how do you see insincerity or self-aggrandizement in the community?
That's a good one. I guess I have some issues with that in our community in general. There's a lot of things I've done, a lot of effort I put into stuff, you know, and then be told either directly or indirectly I'm not quite the appropriate person or something, you know. I don't know.
Okay, so how did the title revive? How did it happen?
Well, I started working back here at that time. I actually my first job, my first event here at Touché was planning our New Year's Eve party 2003, 2004. And part of that, at that time, in coming back into working here at Touché, getting to meet Chuck Windemuth, and of course Chuck was like, let's do this.
What do you miss about the good old days of the leather community?
The tightness of it. Like I said, when I worked on Lincoln Avenue at Touché there, it was a small bar, it was a small crowd, but it was also a very intensely loyal crowd of guys. And we had our little conclave of guys at Touché. You had guys that hung out at the Gold Coast, other guys that hung out at the Redoubt. Each bar had a group of leather clubs that called their home. All the club banners in the back, and why we call it the club room, by the way. People haven't caught on to that. Those were the social groups in our town. I mean, when did it start? Remember when the coalition started? There were very few gay groups here. I mean, gay organizations were just new and coming about. The one thing that the leather community had was leather clubs. They did a lot of grunt work in the community, whether it was blood drives, whether it was getting people tested for STDs before there was AIDS. One of the big things we used to do every year was the annual Toys for Tots show. It was like a bunch of leathermen getting dressed up and putting on a show. It was pretty hysterical. So we all knew each other, and we all wanted to be there for each other. If somebody was doing something, they were there. It's great that there's so many more people into the scene, but you just can't know them all as intimately as we did back then.
That's true.
And there's a whole group of guys that we lost. The banners hanging in the back are all the clubs that are gone. And they're gone because their membership was wiped out within a matter of a year. When AIDS hit Chicago, the first person that died of it that we know of, or was documented, was Glenn Sudsy, who was a member of the Cossacks at Hellfire, and who stood behind the bar with me every Friday and Saturday night, slinging drinks at Touché. He got sick and he died. Within 6 months, half that room had died. I got together with my first partner in 1984. We had a party at our house and invited our friends over to declare this was the beginning of our relationship. Within 3 years, everybody but 2 people in that room were gone. I didn't just lose a little bit of it. I lost a whole group of people. That's one thing I wish kids today would realize, to look around the room, kids that are 25, 30 years old, and look at the people that are next to them, the people that are their friends. When they have a party at their house, who is there? And imagine losing every single one of them within 2 years, and you're still there. I'm sorry I went through it. Sometimes I felt guilty. Why did I make it through and all my other friends didn't? I think those of us that survived that are a hell of a lot stronger. Make us that much more glad that you're still there. I mean, it's we all know what it's like. I mean, Lori's here, Dean is here. You guys, have been around for years, and you sit and watch so many people in your life is gone. We kid around with each other, but we know that people like this have kept me from going crazy. Well, didn't do a very good job, did you?
Don't blame Lori with that.
What is the biggest misconception about you?
I don't know. I mean, there are so many people that have told me, like, you've always intimidated me. And I'm like amazed at that. Because people that know me know that I'm pretty much easygoing and fun and just give me another Jaeger, so because I like meeting people, I like making new friends. Obviously, I need to make friends because my friends get to know me and then they don't want to talk to me anymore. So I'm open to meeting new people. I guess sometimes it's harder. I mean, I'm going to be 60 this year. So most people my age, they don't want to go out anymore or whatever. I'm like, I'm not an old fuddy-duddy yet. I'll still keep going out and having fun because I enjoy getting out and being with people and chatting up a storm and doing something crazy and fun. Younger guys sometimes, hey, I'm the old guy's bar, so they're not interested or whatever. And I said, you should talk to everybody that you get a chance to meet. I mean, because when I started working at Touché in the 70s, I was the young guy at the bar. And I really wish I could remember his name. I had this one regular customer that used to come in all the time, and he was an elderly gentleman then. He had met his partner after World War II. His partner put a ring on him. They didn't wear it on his finger, but he put a ring on him, and he'd never taken it off in all those years that he'd been with him.
That's beautiful.
It was an incredible statement of love and respect and everything else. And, here I met this guy who was 40 years older than me at the time, telling me this. And I could think about what he went through. Determining that he was in love with another man, wanted to be in leather in 1945. What they had to have gone through to maintain that relationship and keep their sanity, keep their life together, compared to what we have to go through now, compared to what I had to go through, 30, 40 years ago. So it's like, I always want to keep meeting people because I've meeting other people that have gone through a lot of different things, came to this place in a lot of different ways. Some of them have gotten here and they want to know more about where to go, how to get involved or be a part of it, and that's fun to get a chance to do that. Some of the guys that have become Mr. Chicago Leather, I've watched them, I've been doing this a long time, not just here, but, at other places. I mean, back to the old days at the old Touché, at Carol's, at Cell Block, all the places I've been, I've seen guys come in, get involved, grow up, and grow into the people, I'll admit it, I'm old enough now that they're like kids that I got to see grow up and become the men, and I'm very proud of who they are and what they've done.
That's beautiful. I would like to thank you for a wonderful interview. Thank you.
Sure.